Happy Sunday, happy Sunday, happy Sunday. It is Coach Lee, your productivity and accountability coach. Indecision is the real thief of your time, and that's what we're going to be talking about today. Because when it comes to your time and what you're doing, it's not your job, it's not your workload, it's not them kids, it's not even the season that you're in that is stealing your time. It's your decisions or lack thereof. Because you might not realize it, but not deciding is actually deciding, and that's going to affect you. And so when you start looking at and thinking about the number of decisions that you haven't actually made, all those balls that are up in the air, all of those things that you're thinking about doing still, that's the problem. And so when we look at it and we start thinking about it from that perspective, you'll realize that indecision is the reason that you're really exhausted. It's not your workload. It's not the things that you're doing. It's none of that. And so most women, like most corporate women, most professional women, they don't, or at least the women I work with, let me be more specific. They don't actually have a time problem. They think they have a time problem, but once we really like dive into it and go through everything, what we really realize is that when you don't decide, default takes over, and default mode, for most things, isn't really good. Like, I know we got all these smartphones and all these phones and things like that, and we got these factory settings and the way that things are automatically set up when we first get them and how we get started with them. And so that's the default mode. And so because of that, it causes us to often look at and think about default being the decision. But default is really someone else deciding for you, because until you customize, let's stick with the phone example here for it. Let's stick with the phone example here. The default decision is what's automatically there. And so if you fail to decide, or if you don't decide, then you're sticking with the default decision, which means you have no customization, no personalization, nothing like that. And if you're not taking the time to customize something, default is a decision. And so because of that, you're not intentional. And so when you don't, then all the things start taking over, whether that be your calendar, your inbox, other people's priorities, other people's decisions, other people's urgency, or what they mark as urgent or priorities. And so that leads to overthinking, because now you got all these things going on and you're trying to really decide and figure out, like, what are we really doing here? And so because of that, you're left with this thought or this feeling of it's on you to figure it out. And because it's on you to figure it out, you feel that because it's on you to figure it out, you feel responsible for it. Hold on, there's this video playing, and I'm trying to not have that play. There we go. And so yeah, by failing to decide, you're actually deciding, and in that, you're letting other things take over. And when you give someone or allow someone to take the responsibility, or to have the responsibility for you, for your life, for where your life is going, for what you're doing, it's giving control. And this letting someone or something else be in control is what's causing these energy vampires, this draining feeling, this oomph. And with that, and even in that, you just keep being taken further and further down. Like, you just keep being drained, but you're never actually like moving forward. You're never actually like progressing. And that's a problem. And so once we start deciding faster, you'll be more confident. I don't know if I've said it like on last week's Success Starter series, but it's been something I've been saying like in my stories, and I've been thinking about and like talking about with people, how like this year I want to take faster action. Y'all know I'm a planner. I love a good plan, but not everything needs to be planned. Some things you need to just do it. Like, you know what needs to happen. Don't write it on a list. Just do it. And so I'm personally working on taking faster action on some things. instead of like, oh, here's an idea for a post. Instead of writing it down to say, make this a post, like make it a post. Like even if you write it and you're like, okay, this will be tomorrow's post or something like that, like shift it. I had asked for like feedback on a post that I had done, and my coach had given some feedback. And so like once she finished giving the feedback, I recorded the video and was like, damn, let me just take these actions while it's front and center in my mind while I'm thinking about it, and then I was able to use it for the next day. And so once we really start thinking about deciding and deciding faster, then you'll really understand that with deciding comes clarity. And clarity is actually a skill that we can all use more of, but we can also all get better at. And so today, for Success Starter Series, we're really going to dive into that. And we're going to kind of walk through these 3 different points and these 3 different parts to really guide us as we're kind of going through. Because when we fail to plan, we plan to fail. And in doing so and in moving in that way, it becomes a problem. And so today we're going to dive in and we're going to talk about, and this is building off really last week, because last week we talked about how your calendar was telling on you. And so we're going to kick off with talking about how not choosing is still choosing. We kind of talked about that a little bit. Why overthinking feels productive, and why deciding early and moving on is important. And so here's what you don't understand, or maybe you don't understand, is that when you fail to choose, again, let's go back to this indecision and not choosing and going with the default mode. When you don't choose, then default decisions becomes the structure for your life. It becomes the thing that shapes you, that guides you, that dictates how it is that you're showing up. And I know that, yes, sometimes you have to start in default mode. Again, let's think about a phone. You have to start with that because you're not necessarily sure of all the capacities, all the capabilities. And until you get familiar with something, you don't know what needs to adjust and shift. You've been living your life for how long? I think it's time that we start, customizing it and making some personalization to it. Because when it comes to work, business, day-to-day life, you have identified things that work, just like you've identified things that don't work. And currently those are the defaults. And you're continuing to allow these things that you see and know don't work to still be the thing that you're doing day in and day out. But what if we shifted that? What if we started actually making decisions? What if we started actually taking the time to do the work that will help the things that work, and letting go of the things that don't work because they don't work? How many things you got in your house right now that you know don't work, but it's still there? And I'm not talking about something that just needs a new battery. Or better yet, let's talk about things that just need a new battery. You know it needs a new battery and you haven't gotten a battery, you haven't put a battery in there. Like, what's up with it? And so that's why we have to really understand that failing to decide is actually you really deciding. And if you don't really look at that or use that or lean into that, then there is going to be a problem. Because you have to start somewhere, and the place that you have to start with is with yourself. And so let's talk about overthinking. You think and you find overthinking to be what? Productive? Because you think that you're planning, because you're going through all these different scenarios in your head. But when you're overthinking, you're just planning yourself to death. And planning yourself to death isn't going to help you. Hey, Fiona, Happy New Year. I am doing good. How are you? And so when you're overthinking, you think that this is helping you to show up. You think that, because you at the time you don't realize that it's overthinking. You think you're just planning out your day, planning out your week, and all of this stuff. But when do you actually take action on the things that you're planning? Because if you never take action on the things that you're planning, that's what makes it overthinking. And that's why it feels productive to you, because you're like, oh, I'm just planning this out. I'm just working on this strategy, this schedule, this to-do list, this whatever, grocery list, menu, whatever the thing is that you're working on. But if you never actually take action and execute, then all you're doing is overthinking. Because you're going in and out, day in and day out, without ever actually doing anything. And so that overthinking aspect gives you this illusion that you're in control. And because you think that you're in control, you feel in control of the situation and you never actually do it. But overthinking is getting to the point where it's actually replacing execution, because all you're doing is planning yourself to death. You're never actually taking action on any of those plans, any of those thoughts, those hopes, those dreams, those wishes, any of that. And so what we have to distinguish and also decide, and more importantly, what we must realize is that if you want to be a person who sets goals, hits goals, achieves goals, excels in goals, if you want to be a high achiever, they decide early and they move on. So that goes back to me saying that something that I want to work on this year is taking quicker action. I want to be this high achiever. Well, we semantics here. I want to be this person who takes action when action needs to be taken. I know how to plan. I know how to set boundaries. I know how to say no. I know how to do those things. But do I know how to show up and take action when it's uncomfortable? Do I know how to show up and take action when it feels iffy? Do I know how to show up and take action when planning or coming up with a different strategy might feel better? And so I have to decide in any given scenario or any given situation, is this a do now or a do later thing? And in making that decision, whichever decision that I make, then you move on. So if you decide this is a do now thing, go do it now. If you think it's a do later thing, don't start second guessing yourself and overthinking and saying, well, maybe I should do it now. Maybe I should do it later. And this is something that I often do when I'm thinking about even like day-to-day tasks. Like I have two options and two choices. And I'm like, do I want to do this or do I want to do this? And now sometimes, in order for me to decide and move on, I do have to weigh the pros and cons. Like, okay, I could, let's use the example of, I could go wash my car now, but I've already taken a shower and cleaned my hair, and I might get out there and sweat, so is this really the most conducive time? Or do I have better ways that I should use my time than washing my car? Or is this a do, so is it a do now, like, oh, let's go wash the car now? Or is it a do later, like, Saturday looks like a better day on my to-do list. I don't have to go anywhere. I don't have to do anything. Like, I'll be, in and around the house. So even if I, finagle the time, that'll be better. So we have to decide, and in deciding, stick with the decision, be confident in the decision that we made, and move on. So if you decide you're going to do something now, be confident in that decision and go do it now. If you decide that you're going to do something later, be confident in that decision, put it on the to-do list, plan out when you're going to do it, and do it at that time. So we're given the choice, and we get to choose. But the question becomes, what choice are you making? Because you don't realize that avoiding decisions is quietly draining you. Your energy, your focus, and your ability to follow through. And we have to shift out of that place and that space to put ourselves in better positions to where we're clear on what we need to do, and we understand that being able to get clear is a skill. And it's a skill that you can learn with practice. The reason that you're not clear on what you should or shouldn't be doing is because you haven't practiced doing and not doing the things. The reason you're not clear on if this schedule is going to work for you is because you haven't tested it. You haven't tweaked it. You haven't implemented it to see, does it work? Because something might look beautiful on paper, but does it practically work? I make a to-do list every day. And my weekend brain dumps into to-do lists. I am so overly ambitious on what I'm going to do. Like, I write down things because I'm like, oh, I'm going to be here, I'm going to be there. And typically here and there means my house. And so I have time to do all these things. But what about time to transition between tasks? What about you planned all these things, but you want to, sit and relax and eat? Like, where's that time? You put all these things on the list, but you're not really thinking about the practicality or the structure or the execution that's going to go into them. And so while we do have to choose, because if you don't choose, you're reacting. And being reactionary is nothing more than allowing somebody else to live your life for you. To like, essentially, they're the puppeteer and you're the puppet, and they're dictating and telling you where you're going because you didn't decide. So therefore, you're at the whim of someone else. And then on the flip side of that is that once you're trying to make a decision, you just start overthinking because you're not used to making decisions because you've been in this reactionary place for so long. Then now that it's time for you to make a decision, you're overthinking and you're weighing the pros and cons to death, or you're planning to death, and you're never actually doing or taking action. And that's why we have to decide quickly, decide early, and move on. And so when you really think about indecision and how it's the real think of your time, it's really because of the amount of time that we spend in the in-between is time that could have been spent doing or not doing something. Because if you're not doing one thing, that means you could be doing another thing. And so whether it's almost like A/B testing, like we don't have time for C, because C is do nothing. Indecision. So we need to either be doing A or B. Which is it? What is it? What are we doing? You get to decide. You get to dictate and create this plan for your life that really allows you to decide, it allows you to decide as well as implement the things that you've been thinking about, the things that you've been planning for, the structure that you've been hoping and dreaming for. But you have to understand that clarity is a skill. People think, or I don't know if people actually like think it in the sense that they articulate it this way, but the way in which they show up, they act like clarity is like this personality trait, that a person is just so clear. No, this is a skill. It's developed. It's honed with time. Even when I look at people saying like, how I got into the coaching sphere of people saying like, how do you do this? And I thought that everyone just did it because I've been doing it so long, i.e. it's a skill. I'm clear on it. And even as I've had that clarity or this clarity, it has gotten murky and foggy at times because I've transitioned to different seasons and I've had to readjust and get clear again on what is the game plan, what is the thing that's going to work, and where is it that I'm going to show up, and what is it that I'm going to do. And so clarity is a skill. Clarity isn't just something that you wake up one day and you have. Well, let me take that back. It could be. But generally speaking, for you to wake up one day and just have this clarity, you've been doing some work in the background. Like, I need to order me a new computer. And it's hard to research said new computer to figure out what to order when current computer just crashes, randomly. And so I was like, just looking, like searching, but I was doing like a Google search essentially, like a generic search. And so Best Buy's popping up, Walmart, Amazon, like all these different options are popping up. And I was like, this morning when I woke up, and I was like, okay, you really gotta get this computer thing together. And it hit me. Go straight to the source. I knew that I wanted a HP or a Dell. Go straight to their website. Just start there. Because whether I have to custom build it or not, and please, Lord, I don't really want to custom build it because then it's going to be too many options and then there's that. But just go straight to their website. You know somewhat of what you want. So use the filters to get you to what you want. Because the issue I started having with being on all the other sites was that they were showing me refurbished things. And baby girl, I don't want a refurbished computer. No offense. But I'm not planning on buying another one for a very long time. And so then in the course of my researching, I also found out that they're like business computers. That apparently they're built differently than regular computers because they're built to where you don't have to replace them that often. Because think about it. I don't know what you do for work or where you work at. When the last time they replaced your computer? Especially if you have a desktop computer. Like, when's the last time that happened? And when I thought about it in that sense, and I was like, well, you know what? When I used to work at a law office, like in high school, And going and coming back, like we had them same computers like the whole time. I've gotten new laptops. This computer, I don't know if the reason that it's crashing is because it doesn't do the Windows 10 support anymore. I don't know if that's it or if it's something else. I don't really know. But I don't got time to figure it out. And so I'm like, okay, well maybe I should get a business professional computer instead of just a regular desktop computer. And so then I was like narrowing down and understanding. Like I know a little bit about processors, but not like a lot. But I'm like, okay, I know that I need a faster processor. I know that having enough RAM is important. I know that this. And so seeing some of them that had lower numbers, it was like, okay, cool, easy to be like, no. Or if I'm going to select this computer, I have to upgrade it and add additional RAM or additional whatever the case may be. And so I had this budget for this computer, and now given my budget probably would have actually worked if I would have bought the computer when I was supposed to back in November or December. And so now I don't know if I'm out of budget because I was just looking at anything back then and not really being clear on the specifics. And y'all are like, what does this have to do with indecision? Just like indecision is the real thief of time, it can be the thief of money. Because sometimes you sit on something for too long and you fail to make a decision and now it costs you more. And so now, like I said, I don't know if the prices that I'm seeing is because of the specs are better or because now that I've gotten like niche down, so to speak, now that I've gotten more like tunnel vision on what I want. Because at first, they were showing me these computers, like the new, like the all-in-one, and I'm like, I don't think I really want that because I know it's built this way, but like what if the monitor goes out but the computer still technically works? Then now you gotta get a whole new one. Versus if I have a tower computer, if for some reason the monitor goes out but the computer itself still works, I can just get a new monitor. And so my indecisiveness on this computer has cost me so much time. It's caused me to choose to keep fighting with this computer. It's caused me to overthink on what I want and where I want to go with this computer process. And I failed to decide quickly or early on, and I definitely haven't moved on. And I don't want that for you. Not just in the computer realm, but in life. I want you to be able to be decisive, to be clear, to take action. I want you to choose to not be reactive, but instead be proactive. I want you to stop overthinking and start being decisive and taking action, deciding quickly, early, and moving on. And so don't let indecision continue to steal your time. Especially not this week, now that we've brought it to the forefront. Let's use that to guide us. Yes, let's use that to shape us. Indecision could be the real thief of time. But I hope that for you, based on the Success Starter series, that you've gotten some clarity, that it's a skill that you're now willing to hone and willing to work on and willing to dive deeper into. And if that is you and you're like, I need help now, hi, I'm Coach Lee, your productivity and accountability strategist, and I can help you. If you're like, I think that's me, I'm not really sure, hi, I'm Coach Lee, your productivity and accountability strategist. Let's figure it out. But I'm finalizing the title for the masterclass that I'm going to be hosting on January the 31st about helping you to reset so that you can get clear, so that you can understand where your time is going, and more importantly, where do you actually want your time to go. And so if you're interested in that masterclass, getting on the wait list, getting, all that jazz, all the details, comment the word masterclass below, and I'll keep you on the list, or I'll start a list and put you on the list, so that when the link and everything goes live, I can send it to you. Or if you're just like, I need help now and I don't got 21 days to wait to figure this out, you can book a free personalized productivity audit, and in 20 minutes we can audit your time, figure out where it's going, figure out where you want it to go, and start to craft a plan to show you how it is that you can get there. And so, until next time, in between time, it's been Coach Lee, your productivity and accountability strategist, here for another week of the Success Starter series. We dove in and we talked about indecision, how it's the real thief of your time. We looked at how not choosing is still choosing or still deciding. We talked about why overthinking feels productive. And we talked about how deciding early and moving on is important. Good question, Fiona. The masterclass will be free to attend live. It'll be $15 for the replay and the workbook. Um, so yes, free masterclass to attend live, and then if you want the replay, whether because you want to watch it back or you're not sure if you're gonna be able to make it, and then the workbook that I'll create, you'll have access to that as well. So yeah, if anyone has any other questions, feel free to send me a DM or comment on this video. But until next time, we'll be back next week, same time, same place. Coach Lee is out. One-on-one coaching is